Welcome to Diaspora Voices. It's an
Thank you.
opportunity. It's an opportunity we have to meet interesting people who have made their home away from Kashmir. But they remain Kashmiri, but they are also acquire multiple identities and belong to the worldwide community. And today, I'd like to welcome you, Mahmood Ali, who I've known you a very short period, but I feel I've got to know you at a fairly deep level. Yours is an interesting story, and I think it would be good to spend a bit of time with you today to learn a bit more, explore it, and share it with the viewers who may watch this program. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
So just introduce yourself. Tell us a little about who you are.
Yeah, my name is Mahmood Ali. My background is from Mirpur Azad, Kashmir, the part of Kashmir that is associated with Pakistan. I live in Birmingham, here in the UK, and I'm a trade unionist.
Yes, we'll come back to some of that. Certainly, the trade unionist. I haven't had an opportunity in the series of conversations I've had on Diaspora Voices to have a trade unionist before. So you're our first, and I'd like to learn a bit more about that later on. To begin with, take us back to your childhood, your life in your early life in Kashmir.
Yeah, I was born in my village called Thub Jagir. It's near Dadial, very tiny village on the border of Mirpur and Kotli. And what separates Mirpur and Kotli is at my village is the river. And I would say it's probably the last village in foothills of Himalaya mountains. And after that, you kind of get the Mangla Dam and then Mirpur and then the plains of Punjab. So I was born there. So I was educated in Mirpur city because we lived in Mirpur city since it came into being in 1967 onwards. And my early primary education and secondary education is from Mirpur. Then I went to college in the Pakistan side, called Mangla Kent. It's federal government college, Mangla Kent. So I managed to get admission there. It's normally a bit of competition. I managed to get there, and my faculty education was from there. And then I graduated from University of Azad Jammu and Kashmir in statistics and economics. And then in 1990, I took the transition of migration from Kashmir to UK.
So when were you born? What year?
1968.
Okay, so do I take it that by that time education opportunities, schools were available to you in your was the primary school in your village?
No, I was, by the time I was at the age to go to school, we were in Mirpur city.
Okay.
In fact, we were living in Mirpur city when I was born, but because when my mom was pregnant, traditionally, she was sent to the village because my dad's sisters were there to help her and everything. So we were residing in Mirpur city when I was born, but my birth was in a village, and then I was brought back into city as a baby. and my early years of education and primary, secondary, then that continued in Maple City.
Okay, so by the nature of it being a city, one would imagine there were plenty of schools for boys and girls.
Yeah, I mean, my primary education was co-education.
Okay.
The school I went to called Pilot Secondary School, and it's the model school, and then the secondary element, which was in the same building, called a Pilot Secondary School. But primary side of the education up to the class 5th, it was co-education, girl and boys together. But after that, girls went to the girls' schools, which was dedicated girls' secondary schools. And I continued in the same school, in the same building, but secondary school, called Pilot Secondary School.
So in your primary school, how many teachers would you say there were?
Every class had a teacher, one teacher.
So five teachers.
Would be 6, because in primary you have, like we have a nursery here, you have a qaida, and then pehli, dusri, tisri, chauthi, panjvi, which means qaida, and then class 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So altogether, the 6 number of years you have to undergo in primary education.
And these were male teachers or female teachers or both?
All male.
All male. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Just try and describe your childhood, your the general environment, how you spent your time, before school, after school, in the wider community. Just give a glimpse of that.
I would say brilliant, because when I think about my childhood in school, the brilliance of it just oozes in my head. I was one of the first children of New Maple City. New Maple City started to develop in 1967-68, and I was born in 68. So I was the first generation born and lived in Maple City, and it was very small at that time. It was in the middle of little hills and jungles and all that, and he had the atmosphere of a very fine, coordination between a village life and the city life. When I say that, because I can still visualize people in Maple City living in the city. The roads is attached to every house because it's a planned city by planned. But at the same time, people keeping cows and buffaloes, and they're curling in the pot to eat from. They're built outside the houses. So if I would say about 40% of the households still had a goat or hens and chickens and buffaloes or cows. So it was a very good hybrid town, which gives you reflection of village and city life. And if when I remember my childhood, again, the combination reflected in my activities. So I played cricket as well, but I went looking for bird nests as well. Yeah. So and I was and went for a swim in the dam, and we also kept the grouse chicks and everything. Kept them as well. So it was a very good, very cohesive sort of society, having a village and city life combined.
Okay, and it had all the facilities of a city. Did it have electricity and those kinds of things?
Yeah, it did. We had electricity, and I mean, as far as I can remember, and I got my memory going very, very early years of my age. When I was 3 years old, I can remember a few things because 1971 war, it's kind of in my head a bit. Yeah, running water, electricity, and everything.
You said New Mirpur, and you said you were the first generation in that city. Just explain why it was called New Mirpur, how it came about.
Yeah, look, Mirpur city. I mean, historically, historians say the actual city, which wasn't the way the one is today. Old city it came under water under Mangla Dam. Historians say there was dwelling since the Ice Age, so it's got a history of it. So the actual Mirpur city, which was I would say about 2 or 3 miles downhill towards the dam and come underwater. It's I've got a bit of knowledge about how it looked like. It was a beautiful city surrounded by green fields and 2 rivers, River Punch and River Jhelum, and then the entire valley then surrounded by other villages and towns which still exist because some of them didn't come up underwater. So that when dam was built, is the feasibility planning etc. for the dam started to come into play late 50s, and then obviously tendering and everything took about approximately 10 years. By 67, 68, dam was completed and water start to be stored, start to gush into people's homes, and it's very tragic. I always say Mirpur sustained 3 traumas, and this was the second one.
Okay.
This was second one. Geographically, Mirpuris left their homeland that they had for centuries, and they had to leave there and move uphill, where the water, which was above water.
So, what was the first trauma?
I believe, well, it's historically proven. 1947 up to October 47, Mirpur had 3 quite vibrant, coexisting, multicultural communities, which is Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, and also a small minority of Christians.
Okay.
But then the war come about. It wasn't a war because the partition wasn't a product of a war, but not very nice things happened during that partition. And come to, regardless of the politics and the geopolitics of the area, post 19 October 47, there was 2 communities gone. Sikhs and Hindus left.
Okay.
They went to the other side for whatever reasons. That's debatable. That's a separate subject. So it was a trauma because those 2 communities didn't just live there. We had of course officials from there, the business people, the social fabric had them included in it. But all of a sudden, 2 communities gone and only 1 community left. So that was the first trauma that people had to sustain and then live with.
And as you were growing up, did you hear any stories about that first trauma?
No. And this is another disturbing. There's hush about it.
Okay.
My dad used to mention some of his friends because in 1947, my dad was a police officer then.
Okay.
He was in his late 20s. He mentioned some names which you could make up. They were Hindus and Sikhs, and some stories you would hear. And some names make you wonder, why is this place called Lakasinga Mode? Why is this place called this? So the memory stayed, but it wasn't much talked about. There were general statements. For example, people would say, Oh, we used to live like brothers and sisters, and plates used to exchange hands over the walls, boundary walls, and everything, with Hindus and Sikhs and everything, but not much more than that.
Yes, yes. What about school and college and university? You went through the whole of that process in your life. Did you learn anything about what had happened in 1947?
No, I learned, uh, but it was a general a subject called Mutaliya Pakistan in Pakistan and history. I knew through my education what happened in Pakistan. The overall, the overview of how things happen, things developed up to 1947.
Hmm.
What part Congress played, what part Muslim League played, who was in which politics, what was the 14 points proposals from Jinnah, for argument's sake, what was Golmaze conference, what happened on in 23rd of March 1940 in Aminar, Pakistan. I knew all that.
Yes, yes.
But and in other words, I knew the rationale, the reasons, and then the plans and the execution of plans and everything for Pakistan to come into being, and then Kashmir's association with the Pakistan and Hari Singh element, and I knew that the history side of it, but particularly about Mirpur, I didn't know. I didn't know what happened in Mirpur till later on. I had uprising about the interest. I wanted to know what happened in my. Then I started to meet people who seen that, and I had a chat with them. So that's how I learned through my own efforts.
So it sounds to me that you learned the top level, middle level politics, but the micro aspects, the detailed local goings on, what you describe as the trauma, was either not covered or glossed over.
I mean, the naive me believes Mirpur is a very small fish in a massive ocean. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think historians will sit down and write down what happened in Mirpur, because I'm sure similar things happen in Muzaffarabad maybe, or Poonch or Rawalakot. So because I've got this longing love for Mirpur, right? So I started looking into it, and I'm sure every city's got a story. So I think because the overall element has been covered off by history in the textbooks and everything, and in history books, Mirpur somehow doesn't have much of a recorded history. I have a few books written by Mirpuri scholars and intellectuals,
Yes.
and it's great help. But because Mirpur is one small piece of the massive jigsaw, I didn't expect to have a lot of literature on Mirpur.
Yes, that's interesting. That you learned about the trauma away from your formal schooling, through a process of self-educating. Has that been through reading books or talking to people, or both?
I think it's intrigueness because when you try to put things together, well, everybody knows. As a kids, when we used to go to Old Mirpur, because although it's underwater,
Yes.
in winter, when glaciers are frozen, less water comes downhill, downstream, the dam dries, almost dries.
Okay.
And then the Old Mirpur and some signs of Old Mirpur emerge, and you can actually visit them. So when you visit them, you do know there was a mandir, there was a gurdwara, there's all sorts of things. So the knowledge was there, but it was scattered. It wasn't put together. Yeah.
Okay.
So I always known there were three communities, right? but never try to question it. What happened then? Yeah. But when you grow old, and when you start to see go into countries like UK where you start to meet other people and they talk about 1947, then you wonder, okay, so I know in Mirpur there were three communities, but I don't know what happened in 1947 onwards. So
Yes,
that's when
yes,
the intrigueness kicks in and you start to look into it.
yes, yes. Okay, okay. Thank you for that. And uh, let's move on to your migration to the UK. Migration from Kashmir, we know, happened in different phases. There were people here, as I've discovered. I think the earliest person I have from Kashmir coming to the UK came in 1924, and it's likely that there were people here, much before that. There were soldiers in the First World War, and then First World War to Second World War. That interwar period, there was a migration. So the pre-war migration, the earlier phase, and then the post-war migration from that area after the Second World War, when Britain needed laborers, and it needed help, and there were people looking for work in our area, and they came, and that's, you could say, the second phase, the post-war migration, and then 1962 came, the first Commonwealth Immigration Act, when they tried to curtail migration, made it slightly more difficult for people to come, and that was when, from our area, people started to bring their. It was men up till that point. They started to bring their wives, and then later it started to bring their children. And it was that phase, uh, second or third post-war migration phase, when I came here in 1970. And in the 70s, we had quite a number of Pakistani, Kashmiri people bringing first boys and then girls as well, and their wives. Um, and then really the next phase of migration was um, through spousal uh, visas. Um, what we call, that's when we had people like the Mangeter, the fiancés like yourself who came here. But just take us back to when that was, and how was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, my view on the entire journey of migration from Kashmir, I think there was the tendency to move to migrate to UK, maybe prior to 1950s, but 1950s, which you mentioned, post World War II, there was a bit of acceleration into that tendency, and people. I know the immigration legislations changed 1962, and then I think 1968, 69 as well, trying to make it tiny bit difficult, if not trying to have a bit more scrutiny, apply scrutiny in immigration. But as the law was changing, whatever the door was still open, people were using that door, people were using that way to come to UK. So if you would remember, after 1970s, I think the legislation restricted a lot of, the freedom of movement, restricted between Commonwealth countries, and one of the few ways left was to come as a Mangetar. And Mangetar is an interesting subject, actually. Although the worldly meaning, not worldly, word, W-O-R-D, word meanings of Mangetar is like is a fiance, but it's applied for all people who came to meet their other half in this country.
Yes.
Whether you married in Pakistan, and you even if you had a couple of children before you arrived to UK, you still called or labeled as a Mangetar. And sometimes, not all, sometimes there was a bit of derogatory element as well, calling Mangetar, meaning calling Freshy or MPs and all that. Yeah, interesting, because I wrote something about it as well. We'll discuss later.
Yes, yes.
So I came as a Mangetar, or I came to join my wife. March 1990. That's how I came.
Yes. Yes. So you've written about it.
It come about in a very interesting way. During COVID-19, I become really ill. I guess I was COVID long patient, so I was mostly home, bedbound, and the poetry nerve started to kick in. I used to do poetry in my college days, and then never touched it for 35 years. Well, I had nothing to do. I wrote a poem about my city, Mirpur. It was titled as Mera Shahr Mirpur, because I was, lying down on the bed missing. And he went quite viral, actually. So when that went, a friend of mine jokingly said to me, "You done a good poetry. I want you to write about Mangetars, a poem about Mangetar."
Okay.
And I know, without him saying it, and me, the way I know my friend and his body language, he wanted me to write something funny or derogatory about Mangetar people.
Okay.
But my view, and he hit me. I said, actually, I should, but not anything to take the mick out of Mangetars. But I believe the three elements wouldn't have happened if Mangetars didn't start to come. One was when Mangetars started to come in this country. They were the ones. They had a lot of loved ones still back home. In most cases, one person come in this country, the brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, parents still back home. So Mangetars kept sending money back. Mangetars kept making their homes, buying shops back home, supporting their brothers in their education and everything. So I believe Mangetars played a significantly crucial part in economy of Kashmir. Mangetars did, by keep sending money because they had a reason to send the money back. That's one. Number two, when they came in this country, Mangetars weren't choosy. They did all the jobs, or any job that was available to them. They done taxis, they worked in a chicken shop, they worked in grocery shops, petrol stations, and everything. And they done the committees, saved money, bought houses, deposits, and everything. So they did play a significant part in raising the economy of this country as well. But most importantly, the fact that you and I are now speaking, and you and I also had a chat about party language and our cultures as well, because Mangetars come from back home, as we call it, let's say Kashmir, they had a tendency to go back and take their children back, take their other half back, take their wife or husband back. So they always wanted to save money and go back after a few years. Because they kept going back, the linkage stayed. It remained established. And the culture element that we still enjoy, it sustained because of Mangetars, I believe. So I thought, on these bases, I wrote a poem about Mangetars, but in a funny way, but a positive way.
Yes. Yeah, I have to say to you, I love listening to that poem. I've listened to it several times, and it began because I always like to listen to quality Pahari, but I think the poem tells a story, a complete story, with a start, a middle, and end. And do you want to read it and talk us through it?
If you think it adds value to the viewers.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's in Pahari, beautifully, written and spoken, and I engage with Pahari as a spoken language much more than as a written language. Anything I read that's not in English is in Urdu. I'm just learning to read Pahari, but I love listening to it. So it would be a pleasure to hear you share what you've written in your own voice.
Thank you. I think it's the story of every Mangater. It's definitely mine. And I think I'm at the stage because it starts till end. I put my hand up where I think I am in this story. You know what I'm reading.
Yes.
So it says, ਚੰਗੇ ਭਲੇ ਰਹਿਣੇ ਸਾਂ ਦਿਨੇ ਦੋ ਵਾਰੀ ਸਹਿਣੇ ਸਾਂ ਚੰਗੇ ਭਲੇ ਰਹਿਣੇ ਸਾਂ ਦਿਨੇ ਦੋ ਵਾਰੀ ਸਹਿਣੇ ਸਾਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਇੱਕ ਪਹਿਚਾਨ ਸੀ ਉੱਥੈ ਵਿੱਚ ਯਾਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਹਿਣੇ ਸਾਂ ਟਲਿਆ ਬਚਪਨ ਚੜੀ ਜਵਾਨੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਈ ਫਿਰ ਨਵੀਂ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਕਰੰਡੀ ਨੇ ਸੂਟ ਤਾਂ ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਸ਼ੌਕ ਚੰਗੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਕੋਠੀ ਬਣਾਣੀ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਿਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਫਿਰ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਚੱਲੀਆਂ ਅਸਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਬਾਛਾਂ ਖੁੱਲੀਆਂ ਸਭ ਕੁੜੀਆਂ ਪਰ ਗੌਰ ਹੋਇਆ ਪੜੀਆਂ ਜਾਇਲ ਸੋਹਣੀਆਂ ਤਾਂ ਚੱਲੀਆਂ ਅਸਾਂ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਹੀ ਜਾਸਾਂ ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਚਲਾਸਾਂ ਯਾਸ਼ੀ ਕਰਸਾਂ ਅਸਾਂ ਕਿਹੜਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਮਾਲ ਬਣਾਈ ਕੇ ਵਾਪਸ ਅਚਸਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਇੱਕ ਕੁੜੀ ਆਈ ਛੇਕੜ ਫਿਰ ਇੱਕ ਕੁੜੀ ਆਈ ਛੇਕੜ ਮਊ ਪਿਓ ਆਖਿਆ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਹੈ ਬਿਹਤਰ ਘਰੈ ਨਾ ਮਾਲ ਘਰੈ ਚ ਹੀ ਰਹਿ ਸੀ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਕਜ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੰਗੇਤਰ ਅਸਾਂ ਵੀ ਐਕਸ਼ਨ ਚੰਗੇ ਮਾਰੇ ਅਸਾਂ ਵੀ ਐਕਸ਼ਨ ਚੰਗੇ ਮਾਰੇ ਨਵੇਂ ਸੂਟ ਔਰ ਬਾਲ ਸੰਵਾਰੇ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਸਭ ਸਿਆਣੀਆਂ ਕੁਝ ਲਫ਼ਜ਼ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਨੇ ਮਾਰੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਯਾਰ ਔਰ ਯੂਕੇ ਢੱਲੇ ਸਭ ਸੱਜਣ ਸਾਕ ਗੱਲੇ ਮਿਲੇ ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਫਰ ਫਰ ਬੋਲਾ ਕੁਝ ਨਾ ਪਵੇ ਮਾੜੇ ਪੱਲੇ ਦਵਤਾਂ ਨੇ ਫਿਰ ਸੱਦੇ ਆਏ ਸੁੱਕੇ ਭੁੱਜੇ ਖਾਣੇ ਬਣਾਏ ਰਿਸ਼ਤੇਦਾਰੀਆਂ ਖੂਬ ਨਿਭਾਈਆਂ ਟੁਰਨੇ ਵੇਲਾ ਪੌਂਡ ਵੀ ਪਕੜਾਏ ਕੰਮੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਫਿਰ ਵਾਰੀ ਆਈ ਮੋਗਿਜ ਤਾਂ ਬਿੱਲਾਂ ਅੰਤ ਮਚਾਈ ਦੋ ਦੋ ਸ਼ਿਫਟਾਂ ਸੱਤੇ ਦਿਹਾੜੇ ਭੁੱਲ ਗਏ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਭੈਣਾਂ ਤੇ ਭਾਈ ਪਿੱਛਾ ਕੋਠੀ ਕਿਸ ਰੱਬ ਨਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਭੇਜਾਂ ਜਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਖਾਂ ਕਮੇਟੀਆਂ ਨਿਕਲੀਆਂ ਕੱਖ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਿਆ ਨਿਕਲਣੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਧਾਰ ਮਕਾਨ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਕੀ ਸਕੂਲ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਣਾ ਬੁੱਢੀ ਕੀ ਕੰਮੈ ਤੂੰ ਚਾਣਾ ਚੱਕਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਇਸਰਾ ਫਸਿਆ ਫਿਰ ਕੀ ਬਣਿਆ ਬੰਦਾ ਨਿਮਾਣਾ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਕੀ ਮੈਂ ਰੱਜ ਪਰਾਇਆ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਕੀ ਮੈਂ ਰੱਜ ਪੜਾਇਆ ਬੀਵੀ ਸਾਥ ਖੂਬ ਨਿਭਾਇਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਡਿਗਰੀ ਡਿਪਲੋਮੇ ਲੱਭੇ ਫੋਟੋ ਵਿੰਡੋ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਜਾਇਆ रिटायर होसां मुल्का विच रैसां बकरियां रखसां सब्जियां लासां कुसै नी मोताजी ना होसी पेंशन डायरेक्ट डेबिट करासां हुण वतनां नूं किसरा जावां हुण वतनां नूं किसरा जावां इंसुलिन ने टीके लवावां अस्पतालां ने फेरे नी मुकणे ब्लड प्रैशर दियां गोलियां खावां बच्चे पुछने कुत्थै दफनाइयै बच्चे पुछने कुत्थै दफनाइयै दिल तय करना मऊ कोल जाइयै फिर सोचेआ सब धरती रब नी कैसते बाडी की धक्के लवाइयै थैंक यू
Yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful life story that you've captured very poignantly. And I think it deserves explanation and translation, but the real beauty is to be experienced in the original words that you've written it in. One of the things that you talk about is the transition, the loss. Even people like me, I was in my early teens, 12, 13, when I came here. But one of the things I lost, and I still remember to this day, 53 years on, is loss of friends, and a whole life that you lived over there. You leave it all behind. But you were much older. You had much more that you left behind, much more of a sacrifice. Do you just want to say a bit about that?
Yeah, I guess when I moved here and tried to settle, and for some reason the organization I was working in, there wasn't many people who looked like me, and so I could communicate or converse with them in our own language and talk about culture or family traditions and everything. So I was predominantly working with the British people, the native British white people, good people, friends and everything. But it occurred to me that being an adult immigrant, what happened was I lost my childhood.
Yes.
When I say I lost my childhood, I didn't, in actual fact, lost the past. It was there, but it was there in a distant memory. I couldn't discuss with my friends. For example, when I'm sitting break time or traveling with friends or at work having a coffee, and when they talked about their childhood or what happened, the cartoons they watched or the game they played or the new boy band come out or Elvis Presley or anything, when they talked about the childhood, I switched off. I had absolutely no knowledge about what they were talking about. And I couldn't discuss with them about my childhood because it wouldn't make sense to them. A lot of things that we did, good, bad, weird, and wonderful things that we did. It was absolutely illogical to them. For example, what we did within the reasonable means that we had available. So I had to. So my life kind of started henceforth after I arrived there. There was nothing back. There was something back, but it was only partially with me because I could only discuss with when I come home. In wider society, I work with colleagues, new friends. I couldn't discuss with them because it doesn't connect.
Yes.
So I realized if you're a child immigrant, it's fine. You can start. You can still have friends. You can still discuss. For example, you discussed with me how you felt about your school. Well, I only went to work here. My primary school, my secondary school, my college, my university, my charms, my romances, and everything. Is nothing here. so
Mm.
so I couldn't grab hold of them in wider society. I could only take them out of basket
Yes.
when I'm at home with my brothers or cousins or something. So
Yes.
it was missing.
So, how was the transition? You were an adult. How old were you when you came to the UK?
21.
Yeah, so you're 21. A whole life you had lived before. Um, you suddenly found yourself in Blighty, in Blythe, England, beautiful England. Um, um, the place that has been my home and our community's home for many years. How was that transition? Did you arrive and then suddenly, um, start to work, or just talk about those first few days, weeks, months in England?
I mean, frankly speaking, first 3 years were hard,
Okay.
very hard. I felt suffocated simply because just maybe a bit of a technical issue. The size of the rooms, I thought they were too small, and the windows, because I was used to outdoor living. In Kashmir, you only go inside to sleep
Mm.
or to pick something up and come out again. We had two bede, one south facing, one north facing. In winter, we spend all day in south facing bed. In summer, we spend all day in north facing bed and sometimes at Pakha. And we only went inside to sleep. Here, morning till night, and then next morning, we were inside as well. There was suffocation element, definitely. Secondly, I came in March the 4th, 1990. It was a recession in this country, and the job prospects were very limited, even for the local people, let
Okay.
alone bilingual. So for a whole year, from 4th of March 1990 till 19th of March 91, because that's when I got my first and only job. This, where I'm working today for 33 years, the same place.
Mm.
So for a whole year, I was just like good for nothing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
at home and doing nothing. And but I was, because in Pakistan, in Kashmir, I was very active. I was active in student politics. Uh, Outdoor living. I was good at sports. And not only that, you have to rebuild your image, your recognition, your familiarity, and everything. And it was tiring because in Mirpur, when I went out, people shook hands, people knew me, they knew the family I was from. I'm not trying to big myself up. I was a normal,
Yes.
ordinary person.
Yes.
People knew I'm maybe good at cricket, but not in football. Yeah, people knew which politics I supported and everything. But here, I had to start all over again, but I had to do it quickly
Yes.
because I was adult. I should have used, but I didn't. Okay, it's all new for me. It was different first 3 years, and then within work, then job, I started to make my own oyster at work, and then obviously friends and everything, and
And
social
what
side.
was that first job that you got after 1 year?
So I started working in a Royal Mail in a sorting office inside the Royal Mail
Okay.
sorting office. Yeah. I still work for. Technically, I'm on a secondment, but technically, I'm still Royal Mail employee.
Okay. 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 And you mentioned that you were somebody who was active in student politics back home, and you are currently working for a trade union here. Just talk about the journey from student politics to trade union work.
I think that is one part. One of the few things that really worked for me. I'm lucky in that I do a job, and all my life I did a job that I enjoy. So, in terms of politics, uh, pre-arrival to UK, my family was not in actively into politics, but my family had views, political views, quite strong ones, and we were like a social democratic sort of views. And my dad supported Zade Bhutto, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and his party. 1979, when he was assassinated, my dad was really stressed out for many, many months. So we kind of born into that, center-left socialist kind of mindset.
Okay.
And in school, college days, and I was quite active in college student politics, and it was quite rife those days. It was quite quite powerful, and I had my positions in the party within the district and everything. And when I come here, I was trying to find a place in the society for myself and trying to go for anything and everything. When you have nothing, you want to go for anything and everything. But at the same time, you have aspirations. But when I was in the Royal Mail a few years, about 3-4 years, there's an opportunity come about to become a trade unionist. And when I learned a bit about it, the trade unions were actually left politics, the socialistic side of the politics. It was a glide for me. I just went gliding on that direction, and I've been lucky and still am, and I am one of the largest trade unions throughout all ranks, from shop floor to. But within a couple of years, I think in 1998, I was a full-time trade unionist, full-time released, and up until today, 25, 26 years. Yeah, I am the national executive of Communication Workers Union, also known as CWU.
Yes.
So, and I've been close to labor politics as well, but the left side of labor politics.
Yes. Yes.
And I had some good opportunities in life. I had opportunities.
Just give a glimpse of what it means to be a trade unionist, what it means to be a person who came from student politics from Kashmir and has been in trade union work for the past quarter of a century. Just talk me through a couple of things, yeah.
Yeah, look, I think simply, if you're in power politics, and for instance, if you're a social democratic or center-left politician and you're in power politics, as a trade union, you would do exactly on a smaller scale in a workplace or organization as compared to politicians you do in the country. Yeah, because what the trade union do is about normally three sides of it. One is you interface with the employers and negotiate better terms and conditions for your members, who are the employees of the same organization. So, for example, the pay rates, sick leave, whether people get paid during the sick, the amount of annual leave they should get, what is the bonus, what is the sharing success, all those sort of reward side of it, terms and conditions you negotiate. Then the second element, you protect members, where if you believe your members are being discriminated against, they're being less favorably treated for their protected characteristics or non-protected characteristics, right? You represent them and fight for them. And if somebody's dismissed, you even go to tribunals. I used to do tribunals. I've done countless tribunals, and fight the job back. And then the third element is you lobby. Lobbying legally it keeps changing how you can do. You try to use your political influence to have better laws, regulations, and legislations and acts in favor of working class people. Yeah. So you do one thing, two things at work, and one thing outside in politics and in the community. So that is mainly what the trade unions do, and that's what I've been doing, to be honest, for the last year.
Yeah, yes. Yes, fascinating work to protect the vulnerable. I think there is much that we as a society owe to trade union movement. All the rights and all the working conditions that we take for granted in our country are there because somebody somewhere fought for them. And yes, thank you for. And what is your experience? You're from a minority background. You're in a mainstream role. Is that a good thing, bad thing, a challenge for you?
I think for me, no. I'll give you an example. I think I was March 1990. I came in this country and could hardly speak English. By 1998, I was doing tribunals. I was fighting cases for vulnerable people, as you described them, in the tribunals, and the other side had the teams of barristers, and I was winning the cases, right? So this is how the trade unions shaped me to identify something in me and shaped me. In terms of, I think one of, it's controversial, by the way, what I'm going to say. I think one of the stumbling block or the obstacle we have is we very quickly go into victimism, which I never did. We start to demand reserve seats. We start to demand special treatment. We start to demand equity. I was once in a conference in Belfast, and after my speech, somebody come up to me and he says, "Sir, I don't like being called sir. Neither I am a sir." He said, "How did you penetrate the glass ceiling? You become a national executive." And I said, "I simply put my name forward." Yeah.
Yes.
Because we sometimes tend to believe there has to be a detour, a special way for us to reach with people normally do in a mainstream anyway. No, just go for it. Just go for it. Trust me, there are more good people in every society than the bad people. There are more people who are colorblind than the people who may be racist. Yeah, have faith in humanity, and I'll tell you. I mean, I don't want to say anything which sounds like a self-admiration. Not only for the last 13 years, I've been being elected as a national executive because I get elected every 2 years. I get elected post for the past 26 years. I get elected every 2 years. But very recently, I've been highest unsuccessful because you have 15 executives we choose, the highest vote gainers. And because people look at your work, people don't look at, you're not white enough, or you're not black enough, or you're not brown enough. Right? Some people might do that. Yeah. But then again, some people might vote for you because you look like that. Yeah. I think have a leap of faith, go and do it. Yeah.
Thank you. I actually met you through the Party Connections WhatsApp group, and it's a forum where we discuss the Pahari language, and now we have the 14th of April as the International Pahari Language Day. I wanted to ask you about Pahari language. Was it part of your? Obviously, you speak it, and you read a poem earlier, so you will have grown up speaking it. But did it appear in your education, in your formal schooling, college or university back home?
No, no, not at all. In fact, Pali language is my village language. Mirpur city is got different sort of approach to the languages. And what attracted me back to Pali language was the sad fact that I realized that our people are deliberately trying not to speak Pali language, their own native, local, ancestrous language, because they think it's a sign of backwardness and people are resorting to English and Urdu. And more I've seen that, more I went toward Pali language and I started doing literature on that. I started doing poetry on that. Just one example. I was feeling sad because I visited Luxor in Egypt and I noticed the languages which weren't even languages in written format. 500 years BC before Christ, or even old, or 5,000 years before Christ, during the time of pharaohs of Calices and Mammons and Tutankhamun's, they used to imprint their expressions or their thinking and views in the shape of pictures on the walls. But the people trying to capture a language out of that, people trying to understand what did they actually mean to say when they made the picture for duck and a horse and everything. And I'm saying that's how important language is. And we have a beautiful, very soft, delicate, romantic language called Pali language. It's slightly different, every village by village. And we're trying to deliberately diminish it. So that's why it kept me focused on that I want to be the one who try to preserve it.
So you've described what people's response is, but what is the official position in Azad Kashmir in the school system or amongst the government? Obviously, Azad Kashmir is a disputed territory administered by, some say, controlled by Pakistan. What is the place of Pahari in that society?
I think in informal society in the villages, Pahari is spoken. It's the only language spoken in villages. But unnoticed, it's the people now, even in the villages, started to speak Urdu to their own children. Not only that, the aspirational language, if they could, they would speak English. In cities, English is quite commonly spoken and Urdu is widely spoken, Pahari is rarely spoken.
Okay.
Yeah. Officially, in offices, all written language is Urdu or English. In education system, I'm sure, I'm more than 90% sure, I don't think there's even a subject about Pali language. I think all subjects are written and read in Urdu or English. If there is a Pali language subject, might be somewhere. If I'm wrong, then forgive me. I'm not aware of any.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Obviously, there is a movement to keep Pahari alive and flourish. Worldwide community wants to celebrate it on the 14th of April every year. I believe you've written a poem about the language. Perhaps we should end our conversation with that poem.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of days, I mean, last week, I guess, there was a day when people celebrated. It was International Mother Language Day.
Yes, yes.
When I got to know a day before, I quickly wrote a language. But most importantly, uh, in that poem, I'm trying to say how the fabric of cultural values is slowly diminishing. How, in other words, post industrial revolution changes, how they're coming in and the language is going out. So it was on that basis. I will read it.
Thank you.
So the poem's title is Ma Boli. Ma Boli means the mother language. And it says, Sab rasam rawaj asan satte rodi. Sab rasam rawaj asan satte rodi. Ma boli asan aja nahi chodi. ਬੇੜਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸਾਂ ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਖਲਾਈਆਂ ਆੜੀਆਂ ਪੱਟੀ ਤੈ ਸੜਕਾਂ ਬਣਾਈਆਂ ਕਿੱਕਰ ਪਲਾਈ ਹੁਣ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਪਣਾ ਸਿਲੰਡਰਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਅਸਾਂ ਅੱਗਾਂ ਪਖਾਈਆਂ ਹੁਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੜਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਘੋੜੀ ਮਾਂ ਬੋਲੀ ਅਸਾਂ ਅਜੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਛੋੜੀ ਗਰੀਆਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਾਖੀ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਹਿਣਾ ਗਰੀਆਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਾਖੀ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਹਿਣਾ ਬੋੜ ਨੇ ਥੱਲੇ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਹਿਣਾ ਕੋਠੀਆਂ ਬਣੀਆਂ ਚਾਰ ਚਫੇਰੀ ਮਿੱਟੀ ਨੇ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਫਰਿੱਜ 'ਚ ਮੇਵੇ ਪਰ ਜ਼ਬਾਨ ਹੈ ਕੋੜੀ ਮਾਂ ਬੋਲੀ ਅਸਾਂ ਅਜੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਛੋੜੀ ਸੁਰਮੇ ਸਕੜੇ ਵਾਲੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹੇ ਪੇਟੀਆਂ ਪੀੜੀਆਂ ਵਾਲੇ ਦਾਜ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹੇ ਢੋਲ ਧਮਾਲ ਤਾਂ ਲੁੱਡੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਮੁੱਕੀਆਂ ਸਿਹਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਰਿਵਾਜ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹੇ ਖੁੱਲੇ ਬੇੜੇ पर सोच है सोड़ी मां बोली असां अजय नहीं छोड़ी बाड़ियां की हुण बाणा कोई नहीं बाड़ियां की हुण बाणा कोई नहीं मक बाजरा हुण खाना कोई नहीं हल पंजाली की सीखां लगियां बैंगी भी हुण चाणा कोई नहीं कुदरे नहीं दिसनी दांदा नहीं जोड़ी मां बोली असां अजय नहीं छोड़ी कुत्थै गई ओ मां नी मधानी कुत्थै गई ओ मां नी मधानी सुबह सवेर ओ लस्सी लानी घड़े त गडवे असां सट्टे बगाई कोई नी भरना खूह तू पानी ना रिया बोका ना रही डोरी मां बोली असां अजे नहीं छोड़ी मां बोली असां कदे नहीं छोड़नी मां बोली असां कदे नहीं छोड़नी असां नहीं इंग्लिश उर्दू बोलनी असां पहाड़िए पहाड़ी बोलसां कश्मीर नाल असां की इयै जोड़नी ना रहियां मावां ना उन्हां नी लोरी मां बोली असां अजे नहीं छोड़ी
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for writing it and thank you for sharing it in your own words. Well, I just want to thank you for for the time you've given and for sharing some of your life. There is much more. Perhaps we'll have an opportunity in the future. But for now, it leaves me to say thank you. It's been a joy to get to know you and get to know your story. And I look forward to further conversations with you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much.